So I've always lived an active life since I was very young. I've played hockey, I've skied, I've been an avid cyclist, and over the last 10 years, I've done a lot of trail running, in some cases very long distances, 50K, 50 miles, and really enjoyed, outdoor activity. Probably about 3 years ago, I started having some pretty significant hip pain, and I was very worried that the things that I'd love to do, I wasn't going to be able to do them anymore. I couldn't sleep well, walking became painful, and I had to stop pretty much all the activities I enjoyed. And as someone who's been active my whole life, it was pretty difficult for me. And that's when I was introduced to Dr. Mast, who absolutely changed my life. The recovery process was amazing. After just 6 weeks, I was hiking, and by 8 weeks, I was doing light running. And by 12 weeks, I was almost back to full form. Although we expected I would eventually need to have my right hip replaced, Dr. Mast's care ensured that my left hip was in top shape before moving forward. I've now had both of my hips done very successfully, and I'm excited to say that I'm back doing the things that I love. A fun story. After I had my left hip done about 2 years ago, I was 8 months post-surgery. I'd started training again, and I had signed up for a trail race. It was a 26-mile trail race in Southern California. And I arrived at the start line, I park my car, I start stretching prior to the race, and I get talking to the gentleman next to me who's also stretching, getting ready to run the race. It turns out he's a hip doctor as well. And so I told him how I just had hip surgery about 8 months ago. He said, "Who'd you have do it?" And I said, "Dr. Mast." And he started to laugh because as a hip surgeon himself, he had Dr. Mast's father was his mentor. And he said to me, he goes, "And when I wear out my hip, Dr. Mast is going to do my surgery as well. He's the best." I think there's a common misconception that if you have a hip replacement, you can't go back to doing a lot of the things that you love to do. And that is simply not true, right? I did some very extreme things to wear out my hips. I did a lot of trail running, a lot of marathon running, a lot of long cycling, martial arts, etc. Had a lot of fun wearing out those hips. And the good news is now that I've had them both replaced, I can actually do most or all of those things and love doing them with a similar intensity that I did them previously. And so for me, that is a wonderful outcome. I'm mindful, I'm careful. I want these to last for the rest of my life, but I'm doing all the fun things that I did before. And if I could do it all over again, I'd do it sooner. I think the thing that I would like to see, I would be most interested in if I was sort of starting and reconsidering this, was the don't hesitate message. Just like I waited too long, there's a lot of other folks who have significant hip pain and they can't sleep. They're stiff when they sit, they limp when they walk, and they're trying to wait as long as they can before they have a hip replacement. They should do the opposite. I should have done the opposite. As soon as I had those issues, like having the surgery right at that point gets you back to doing the things that you love that much sooner. And so that's what I should have done. And to anybody else who's postponing, I would get it done right away. My doctor is part of the Stanford network, arguably sort of the best stable of doctors. And my doctor was quite specific. He's like, if you're having your hip done, knowing the kind of athletic activities you love to do, you need to go to the city, you need to use Dr. Mast. So my GP was quite adamant about using Dr. Mast, who literally is outside the system of Stanford, and saying that's where you need to go. And so I did what my doctor told me, and it was the right thing to do.